hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pathways to Perform. We hope these real stories from real people resonate to help guide you on your path to perform at your very best in any field. Joining me today is an internationally celebrated dance educator and artist. She is amazing. She has touched the lives of thousands and thousands of young aspiring dancers, as well as professional performers from around the world. Currently, and most recently, she's launched her newest project called Illuminate the Possibilities. I love that. And in addition to that, for over 34 years, she continues to reign as an industry leader, serving as artistic director for one of the longest running and most successful dance companies in the country, Giordano Dance Chicago. She is fabulous, she is fun, and she is fierce. Please welcome my dear friend, Nan Giordano. Yay!
Oh my gosh, Kiesha, what an introduction. Thank you so much. I hope I live up to all of your beautiful, kind words. Thank you. I greatly appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Well, I'm honored to have you. You are such a great asset and just trailblazer for the industry. And so it is an honor and a pleasure to have this conversation with you today. I'm excited and I'm eager to kind of jump in.
Well, the pleasure will be mine, and I look forward to this time together.
Great. I love starting from the beginning of people. We tell these stories and journeys, and through these conversations, the one thing that is completely just kind of repeated itself is that everybody has a different journey. There is no right way or wrong way to get somewhere. And so, with you, Gus legend, Gus Giordano is your father. I'm interested in knowing when dance started with you. Was it something that you felt was a calling, at age 3? Was dad bringing you to the studio? How did it all begin, considering that, dance legend Gus Giordano happens to be your dad?
That's a great question, and I am the only one out of four that went into it, so it was not a forced at all. I was 8, and I was taking one ballet class and one modern class because at that time jazz was not. Oh, jazz! You were not allowed to take jazz at 8 years old. This is only going back a few years, Keisha. Keep that
Yeah,
in
of course, just a
mind.
few years.
Just a few years. Uh, I loved, loved, loved my modern. Absolutely loved it. I was not a fan of the ballet. I was had to do it and learn to love it. But in the beginning, I had a very strict teacher, and it was not a fun experience. It was when I started taking jazz a couple of years after that. I think my father allowed me to go in a little bit earlier, so say maybe 10, 11. That I just wow, this is the excitement, this is the energy, this is the vibrance. It just felt right for me. So that's how I started, and it was dance was absolutely my destiny.
Was
Yeah.
there a moment when you started when you were 8, and then you continue to grow, and you're taking these lessons and you're studying and you're being exposed to all these exciting ideas? Was there one defining moment in which you said, this is it? Like you said, when
Um,
you found jazz, it fit. Was just a culmination and you just kept going because you knew?
I cannot say that there was one defining moment, but um, I was quite shy, very shy. People do not believe this, but when you hear me speak as a young girl, very quiet, very reserved, it was a lot of pressure, which I know we'll get into shortly. But it was not a defining moment. It was just once I started to get embraced and have see what my father really did. I got to travel around with him, um, starting local and then all around the world. Him doing master classes and me seeing just the how he worked and the regard for him as a man, as well as this art form. And so it was just a journey of time. But as a young girl, I was really an organizer. I was the one in the neighborhood. I had a school in our basement with desks and homework and everything. I gave carnivals. I was always orchestrating something, producing. I would not at the time. I wasn't saying I was producing,
I don't
but
know.
I
You
was.
have to put those desks up. You have to organize it. You have to cast it. I don't know. It could be producing.
Well, yes, but I certainly didn't even know that word at the time. But I was an
Exactly.
organizer, and I like to do uh, things, and so it just kind of was an organic process
Mhm.
for sure.
But what was that like as a dancer on the floor with your dad being in front of the room?
Well, it's an interesting kind of counter in the room, on the floor, in the business setting. Again, I was very quiet. I did not flaunt my name, who I was. It was too much pressure. And whatever my father said, the utmost respect. And that's how I really learned. Um, because, it was my father. I'm not a complainer ever, but I could never complain. It was my father that was at the helm, and that was not. I had such great respect, and all of us did whatever he said, um, whatever that was, and he was a very kind, embracing man, but he was very, very hard on me
Mhm.
um, in the classroom. But we had a tender side because um, as a father, although my mom was the one that really raised the children, my dad was out always, out, teaching, 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 uh, doing choreography, but mainly doing his master teaching, and then of course the company touring. But he had this side. We had a very special bond because I was his legacy. I mean, nobody else went into it, and although he was hard on me, we had a very special um, connection. My dad was really ahead of the times, though. There would be sometimes things that he would do and experiences we would have, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is my dad that I'm doing this with." It was it was strange at times. I could go on and on, but he was really ahead of his time, very much so.
But you'll cherish those memories and those moments forever, and it's so special to even have that. I mean, for me, I'll never forget setting the piece with the company, and your dad walked in the room and the whole room stopped. And this was, of course, towards the latter part of his life. And I looked over and you looked at me. I just started crying. I was in awe. I didn't I was almost paralyzed for a moment. And I walked over and said hello. And he said, "It's so nice to meet you. I hear that you're talented." And then he watched the dance. I don't think I sat next to you because I was so nervous, and you told me it was going to be okay. And then he looked at me and said, "You have a gift." And I thanked him for the I was crying like a lunatic. And he said, "You have a gift." And that was part of my continued fight for so much. He sparked that fire in me and just kept it ignited for so long with such kind words. But something that I don't know that I ever shared with you, and until this moment, it clicked, and I remembered this memory. I thanked him for everything, and I told him how wonderful you were and how amazing it is to have you and how gracious you've been. And you've been a great mentor and helped me, even creating with notes and things. And he said, "She is so special." And
Well,
that respect that you had for each other in that moment. And I never really thought about it until you talked about your relationship with him, your dynamic.
well, don't get me emotional, Keisha. I live with heart and soul, and when I speak about things that I'm passionate, people that I care about, or things that I care about, you will see my heart. So thank you for that. I knew that we had a special place. Again, he was hard on me it, in the dancing as I was a dancer, but he there was one moment when we were on tour, and I was very young, and we were doing More Than a Machine, which was, he was known for this piece, very about Harley Davidson. Anyway, I was played the part of the eagle, and the four men, very strong, big guys. There was this lift, and the boys had told me that I couldn't hold on to them, and my father was sitting in the house, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do as you say, and you dive into their arms and flip over, and you do a flip in the air, and then I just flipped and landed right on my back, and I had never seen my father show such. He was so mad and so upset that I'm like, after I got my bearings back, I'm like, Dad, I just did what they said, but he was like, that is it. We are not doing that again. And then there was a change that occurred. But so he didn't show it often until later. It's funny, Kiesha, because he had the highest of high bar, but when the tables turned and I stepped in, oh, my father would come in and say, "Oh, they're wonderful," and I'd say, "Dad, no, this is not good." So we kind of flipped
Tables
the table.
turned there a little bit.
The tables turned very, very much so. So yes, uh, he was a very his spirit, and I still hear it to this day. Um, I wish some of the younger generation talents that have such capability to really shift. Um, it was never about my father. Um, it was not about him as the man or the hot combination. It was about the art and the elevation of jazz hands. And that's what I continue to do. It's not about me. It's so much bigger than me.
It's so much
Um,
bigger. You've always been like that.
yeah, it's just much bigger. And so it's not about this combination. It's so much more. So that's something that has been really instilled in me and that I'm trying to bring in, especially to the younger generation.
Hmm. Well, and digging a little bit deeper, you have been such an inspiration and role model for so many dancers. I mean, from your choreography to being an artistic director. I mean, you served as a great mentor for me for all these years and a dear friend, thank goodness. I'm so lucky. But, I look back and I've had so many wonderful people like you help me along my way. Besides your dad, were there any teachers or mentors that really helped influence and shape who you are today?
I have to say, Keisha, uh, my father takes the crown there. I mean, in so many ways, because I got to experience my mother running the business from the backside. I love the business end. I'm very good at that end. I got to see my father. I can't say that there's one person that stood out. Isn't that funny? I mean, I just felt that I was being trained and mentored from a very strong, powerful voice and leader in so many elements that he was just the end all, and not in a sense that I thought my father was, a super being. Not at all. We all have our faults. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And I tell my son to this day, we must focus on our strengths and continue to work on our weaknesses as long as we're aware of them and trying to, you know, improve. Always, always there. So I gotta say no, Keisha.
Hmm.
He would really just molded who I am today, and now I've taken it and become my own person. But my father's always there with me in my spirit and soul. I don't like to uh, highlight that, because now this is my path. He is there with me every moment. I speak to him all the time. I called him Poppy, and I'm like, Poppy, are you seeing this? Are you, And I have to say, he was really gave me all the keys that I um, needed And of course, I've learned and grown immensely as a leader. My initial style was not what I am today, but that's what life is. You learn, you grow, you elevate. Um, but he was a very special man, and uh, watching he and my mom work in that tandem, woman behind the great man, wanting no credit whatsoever, but being such a strong force that you just don't really see that kind of partnership because he was in the limelight and she didn't want any part of it. So I have to credit both of my parents for instilling so much in me that will never ever leave, and that's what I now instill in the young
Hmm.
dancers.
Such a rare and beautiful gift to have your parents as your greatest mentor and influence. It's beautiful. It's blessed, you know.
Yeah, it really is.
It
It,
really is. There
thank
is
you,
no
Keisha.
way. No, I mean it's true. I think that a lot of people don't have that kind of support from their families. And for you to have that is such a blessing. But I can't, there's no way we're getting through this without crying today. I'm all,
I know, I know myself very
there's
well,
no
and
way.
I'm on the verge of emotion, but I'm keeping it together,
Oh,
and
this is
because
great.
then I won't be able to see, and I'll have tears, and
We'll
so
just be
I'm
a
keeping it
mess.
together. But we're both very from the heart,
Emotional from the heart.
emotional,
Yeah,
yes,
the two of us.
emotional
Yes.
women. So we're a good pair on that regard.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Looking back at your actual performer days, so you're like really just kind of getting into Nan now.
Yes,
Uh, as much as you've had this amazing influence and support from your parents, you have definitely paved the way and carved your space in legacy and what you're leaving behind. The evolution of this dance company is extraordinary, and I've been blessed enough to kind of see it go from where it was and to where it is now. And it's impressive to say the very least, the work that you have done. And again, it's really driven from your heart. It's so clear. But getting into, really Nan as an artist, which is so I'm really interested in learning more about this. Were there any dance works that were most profound to you that held a special place in your heart that you loved to perform that kind of brought something out of you?
absolutely, 1,000%. On the Corner was the name of the piece, choreographed by Jeffrey Mildenstein, who was, my father used to call him the Palomino pony. He had long, long, long blonde hair. Came from a farm in Iowa at 16. He was very young, one of those, couldn't happen in this day. But my father and mother kind of became his parents here in Chicago. And for the rest of his life, even upon his death, my father was there. He unfortunately his life ended at a young age. But this piece, my father loved it. My mom hated it more than anything. On the Corner, um, I played the soloist, Little Girl Blue, and it was a Nina Simone. Uh, it was really about ladies of the evening. This piece. It was a brilliant piece of work that had a lot of depth, and there was a solo in it where I did it with one heel on and then the other foot was flat foot there, and it was the type of solo that had so much internal soul and just someone that had just been beaten and beaten and beaten, and how they're going to get that power back. It came right after an Apache, which is a very angry, um, powerful kind of man. I'm the man, and you are, the woman, which is, not the way, but and violent. So right out of the Apache, being literally beaten, kicked, and
Hmm. Hmm.
that's my mom did not like that. But I went into the solo that I could just really give everything I had, and it had a sense of, you could. you could just live into it and have a character and really become this 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 person. And you didn't have to do everything perfectly. You could, take some chances with it. That stands out to me more than anything, and I did it a lot in many places all over the world. And
What a
yeah,
great opportunity, though. I mean, to
yeah,
have that moment. There are, have those kind of moments as a dancer or performer are rare, right? I mean, you work and you do the gig and you continue down that path, but to have that experience that kind
yes,
of brings it all together for you and you can perform mind, body, soul completely connected is special.
yes. And one other interesting thing, Keisha, and I'm not. This is no fabrication. I remember my father's choreography. I can pull out steps and segments from so many pieces that I did, and any other choreographers, I don't remember one thing, not one thing.
Wow.
So to this day, integrated into the Giordano technique and the certification, and I'll do things that I did when I was dancing, not in an old-fashioned way, but just and I remember it, and I do it. I'm like, oh my god, it's a little bit scary because I don't remember anything else except for my father's work. So and I did a lot of other things. And the On the Corner, that was Jeffrey Mildenstein, as I said, that was not his work. So
Wow. I
I
just,
don't know why that is.
well, that's a little bit of DNA, right?
I
Probably.
think so. I think so.
Little bit of DNA maybe. I love that. And that it stays with you still. It's
Yeah.
it's just it's supposed to be, you know?
Yep. It
And
absolutely is.
I mean, talking about destiny is supposed to be your path. When when did you realize it was time to kind of transition from performer to becoming, artistic director and the person at the helm of the company? What was that transition like?
Well, I have to say that I had an injury. It was not my decision. It was not a clear cut decision. I'm stopping dancing. Much of me thinks that was good because along the way, I've seen dancers that have that hard time leaving their performance career and going on to the other side. My decision was made for me because I had a bad injury and tried to come back, and it was just not going to happen. And so it was just a natural, very organic transition, and something that I brought to the table is I saw how hard my parents worked, and I saw there really wasn't a real functioning board at all. It was my mother, Ann Barzell, namesake on the state documents. But I wanted to change things because I saw a lot of their financial support had been monumental, and it was a struggle. You have a not-for-profit dance company, and that takes money, and if you're not having outside sources, then it's very very difficult. So I established the change of the board, and
Hmm.
now we have two very strong boards. Well, actually three. Um, so it was natural, Keisha. It was really natural. I didn't go through that mourning period. Some dancers do. Some dancers do transfer and don't look back. It just depends on the individual. But I had seen a couple dancers much senior to me in the company that kind of struggled making that transition and not wanting to leave it. So the decision was made, and I think it was just seamless
Hmm. Yeah.
because
Well,
it
and
was
sometimes fate, it just becomes serendipitous and puts you where you're supposed to be.
exactly. And
Hmm.
I love the business side. I love the artistic side. I love the business side. I was certainly nothing the leader I am now when I started. I was much more of a dictator because I had too much responsibility. I had no assistance. And so it was, do it my way or no way. Now I'm the complete opposite. I have a high bar, but a dictatorship is not a healthy environment. You have to be a unifier. So a dictator and a unifier are very, very different.
Hmm.
Now I completely consider myself a unifier. and really working as a team. I love to work as a team, um, because that's how you create energy and growth and power, when you work as a team.
Well, and it's fascinating because through the years, I have felt the same thing, just even as an educator. And I think a lot of us that are leaders or people in front of the room, you
Yes,
realize that like those learned behaviors of tough love and those things don't work. They don't get the results that you need them to get. And in addition to that, the people in front of you learn a different way. And
right.
so, kind of letting go of that and becoming a unifier, someone that lifts people up is much more beneficial for everybody in the room. So,
Yeah,
but these are things you learn,
right,
through the
right.
years, and just kind of grateful that you did and we did. It's
Yeah,
just one of those things that you go, oh, look, positive energy changes everything,
yeah, exactly.
and it's
And
it's beautiful.
I think when one is overwhelmed in any sector, and it doesn't have to be the arts, in anything, you know, an overwhelmed state does not create something great. You have to get control of whatever that is, however you do it, whether you can do it yourself or you need assistance, and then you can start to build something, great. You look at any great leader or great head of a corporation or a great director or a great educator, they have the component of being able to lead with unity, like we've just been talking.
Hmm.
So
Well,
yeah,
and leading through that and going through those transitions and kind of building the company reputation, culture, environment that you wanted. I heard you talk a little bit earlier about pressure as a dancer, but were there moments you faced as an artistic director that kind of threw you for a loop and you were like, what is happening? And this is the biggest challenge of my life.
absolutely. And there was, numerous times that um, uh, there was outside forces, um, trying to, perhaps tear things apart. Um, there was time of challenge, you know, um, a personal challenge, that had a great impact on, uh, my leadership, with the dance company. But and again, this is something I don't say I'm older. I never will say old. I'm a seasoned woman, and that, seasoning, I'm very confident of who I am and what I'm doing. And but that comes with age. It comes with experience. It comes with others that you're looking at, as, mentors. And so, yes, there's been many times that, crying behind the doors like, oh my God, this is just too much. I don't know if I can do this anymore. But I've learned to, turn that around. It's not just me. So I now have a wealth of amazing people around me, and I feel that team even throughout the current environment. And our team has been, diminished, because of financial reasons. But I have board. Our board is really engaged, and our young board now, and, people like you, people like my colleagues that we, live for the energy, feeding the energy. So I just won't. I don't feel that I'll ever get to that place of, um, despair and, oh my God, I can't do this, because if something changes, I've done everything in my power to make it go, up. And if something
Mhm.
changes, I can't control that.
Mhm. Well, it's one of those things, adapt or die, right?
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
or evolve and die or die, whatever those phrases are. But
Yeah,
it's really, and I think as artists, we have to do that. I mean, we
yes,
we kind of don't have a choice. It's always about the ebb and flow and shifting with the industry and meeting the new demands, or the dancers change, the artists change, the audience change, the funding changes, everything keeps changing. So you got to go with the flow.
yeah. And that's one of our mantras.
Mhm.
GWTS, go with the flow.
Oh, I
And
love it.
doesn't our world need right now? If we've not learned anything, we've learned You have to be able to go with the flow because everything being, totally calculated in this, we can plan, we live for today and plan for tomorrow. Is how we have to go. But the flow, you can ask any one of the dancers, what's the mantra? They'll all chime in. Go with the flow because
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mean, just thinking more about change, evolution, adapting. The old name of the company was Giordano Jazz Dance Chicago, and then it shifted to just Giordano Dance Chicago. What was the kind of justification or entire intention behind that?
Well, we've gone through many name changes, which I won't go back to the beginning, but before even it was Jazz Giordano Jazz Dance Chicago, it was Gus Giordano Jazz Dance
Yes.
Chicago, and it was my father's um, uh, when he said formally at the time, just to me, we're going to do a whole baton exchanging, and when I'm becoming an official title, which I never cared about. Um, but he wanted his name out because it was more than him. It was us, and it was the Giordano legacy. So that was the first ultimate change with taking my father's name out. He was a part of that and was the driver for that. And then taking jazz out, it's interesting, Kiesha, because um, we were actually defending our position. And, people would say, oh, I don't like jazz. I hate jazz music. Well, but we're jazz music, yes, can be an integral part of what we do, but there's a lot of different music styles and genres, and it's not about uh, one particular vein because that's jazz. It's so many different forces and flames and people, and so it was really becoming a detriment for us. And we had been told by many presenters in the presenting houses, our agent at the time, uh, we were just getting this force of you have to do it, you have to do it. So did we? We wanted to make it so that Giordano Dance Chicago, we know who we are. We are a jazz dance company, but in order to showcase all the different veins of jazz dance, we felt that taking jazz out of it at the time,
Hmm.
and this is going, I can't even tell you how many years ago, maybe,
I mean, I'd say almost 10, if not
oh,
longer.
more than 10. I would
Yeah.
say
Okay. Okay.
15,
We're aging ourselves.
12, 15. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. And I've actually been at the helm for 36 years.
36 years. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. I said 34.
formally. I was already doing things even before. So anyway, it's been a long
Okay.
time.
Okay. Okay. Great.
So I am aging myself by that. But anyway, luckily I got very good skin from my father. And hopefully
That's
it
great.
remains that way. But again, the beauty comes from within, and that's how
Hmm.
you keep yourself young. Is how you what you're radiating out. Firm believer in that, the power of that. So yeah, it was really a lot of forces coming at us, if you can believe it. I don't think that
Hmm.
would ever happen now.
Hmm.
And we were the first company in Chicago to add Chicago because we were touring all over the world. Every company followed us. Hubbard, Joffrey, Photos, DanceWorks, River North, every single company. We started this trend. Every single company added Chicago into their name.
Hmm.
But the reason why my father did that is, we were based in Evanston for many, many years. Well, as far as Evanston being Chicago, like who knows Evanston? And my father wanted people to know that his company was from Chicago and Evanston meant nothing. I'm telling you what his perception was. And, so that's why we added Chicago and Drop Jazz. I believe it was at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that, but globally, someone wouldn't recognize Evanston. They would globally recognize the city, Chicago. And then you think,
Exactly.
of course, like Destiny and Fate again, shifts you to Chicago anyway.
I know, and
So,
and talk about almost a devastation, destruction, going away time. That was a
mhm,
very, very uh, devastational time in my life personally, as well as the company. The rug literally was pulled out from under us. But you know what? It was the greatest, best thing. I will never forget talking to the dancers when there was a lot of upheaval. They're all in the room crying. Michael McStraw, who is my business partner and the force, the great force alongside with me that we've made such amazing changes and enhancements to the company. We said, stick with us. We are not going to die. We may not have a home. We may not have money. We may not have anything. And we didn't have anything. And we went to some key people in the city. And we that was the greatest thing ever. We didn't know it at the time because we had nothing, you
mhm.
know. And but it's we made it, and it was the best thing ever, 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 ever.
Out of these horrible moments that you think are the most tragic, sometimes something beautiful can come to fruition and present itself in a way that actually, like you're saying, makes it better.
Yeah. My mottos since that time: adversity creates strength, and change brings opportunity. Absolutely, they're very simple things, but even in the time we're in now, adversity creates strength. We're all facing a lot of adversity, and it's very different now because it's having such a grave impact on so many of us. But it is creating strength, and that change will bring opportunity if you are open to it.
Hmm. It's so important to stay open.
All summer, I started these classes teaching on Friday nights. People started coming in from Mexico, from Brazil, Guatemala, around the States. And I saw that it wasn't just a class. Like I was becoming not just me, but I was wrangling this light and this energy. And it felt so good. And people were like begging me, "Oh, please don't stop, don't stop." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm, it was, and it was this unifier, and we'd have these sessions, and people would be crying, and like, wait a minute, there's something here." So, long story short, I organized. This is a project that I have done for me, not through the company,
Hmm.
with no money, nothing. Um, it's actually trying to help people get out of the horrendous situation. And I have started this project in Latin America um, because that was my first ever tour at the helm. My first international tour at the helm was to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and many other cities. I was so young. Um, I didn't know what I was doing. We had a month-long tour, and we arrived to Rio at the Copacabana Palace, and I will never forget ever. My dad was already there. He was teaching in the grand ballroom, and I walked in. It was like he was the rock star of rock stars. I couldn't even get to him. There was this energy and excitement, and these people were crazy, crazy over the Giordano technique. And it's just an experience I never have forgotten. And every time I teach in Latin America, I feel it.
Hmm.
And I decided to do this project in Latin America, illuminate the possibilities. And part of it is about global connection and connecting people. It's not a lot of money to do this project. It's very simple. And we are partnering people, different schools and directors of different studios. It's about unity. And so you could have a school in Guatemala, and then you could have a school in Brazil and in Mexico. They all partner together so they can do the experience. Then they connect with someone else in the same situation. That's how it started. And it's based about possibility. And my father is in just steeped in it for sure for the inspiration. But it's really my project. Uh, and it was merely by chance, by by a silver lining of reconnecting with someone that had been a scholarship student at the original school in Evanston. 17 years ago, Maria Castro, who felt an allegiance toward me, to the Giordano technique, and she started creating and helping and doing all of this again for no money, for something that she believed in, and she partnered us with a force in Mexico, um, uh, and it just keeps blossoming, Kiesha. So again, I feel that it's something that is part of what I have to do, what I want to do. This pause in time with the dance company has enabled me not to be producing every second. It's enabled me to focus on my teaching and making a difference and being a light and a positivity force, as well as strengthening the company. And we are doing we are in the midst of a strategic plan. We are looking at our organization, every level of it, very differently. And we're going to come out of the box with something very, very different. Unlike Giordano Dance Chicago, and with all that's happening in the world, and taking a stronger step in one of the strong forces as a leader in jazz dance as a company. We are 58 years, and we need to do something out of the box. Now's the time. For many years, most of the works were his work out of necessity, because it was a financial thing. So my dad got to see, while he was still living, the transfer of the company becoming a rep company and showcasing all the different voices. And that's my proudest thing. And that is, I'm so happy that my father got to see it, got to see us at the Harris stage. He never got to see the auditorium, which I'm really sad about, because he had a special bond with that, and he and I in the auditorium. But he got to see it while he was still alive. He wanted us to be performing downtown, on the downtown stages. And he got to see that, and he got to see us becoming a rep company, and he loved it. And he was the one, Kiesha. He'd come off the road. Oh, man, you got to check out this choreographer. Even in his later years, he was doing that.
And he loved it. His love was clear. And he celebrated everyone. He really celebrated every kind of dancer, every kind of artistic voice. He really was excited about what was next. And I love that about him. Yeah.
Yes. And isn't that how we need to take it today and embrace it today, but we need to look forward. And when I stop creating, and I'm not talking choreography, but I tell this to those that are close around me, when I stop creating, I will be dead, because that creation of, oh my God, we can do this, we can do this. When you lose that, then you start to get docile, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah, sitting stagnant is not good, and it's certainly not good for us, because that's not how we work.
No, and I have huge regard for you. Now, you are a choreographer. You have the gift of choreography. That's part of your DNA, and that's something that charges you. And you have a lot of hats too that you wear. But I think it's exhilarating, and I have a high regard for higher education, for education, whether it's in the formulative years, going into the university level, because we are shaping these young, we're shaping young artists, and it's not just about that job. We're shaping individuals, and especially you, and in the education. It's a role of great I'm not finding my word right now, Kiesha.
No, I mean, it could be responsibility, or
yes,
I mean,
yeah. It's a role of great responsibility that I applaud all the educators. I'm an educator, but not in the education system, and they're very different, but they're both very crucial and important.
Well, thank you for that. But it's rewarding too. I mean, after all these years, people say, what keeps you coming back? Why are you staying? And it's the students, their
Mm.
drive, their passion, their hunger, and it is rewarding. It's fulfilling. And looking back at the teacher choreographer I was, 20 years ago, you wouldn't believe who I am today. I look back, but it's part of that. It's you grow and learn. And I think that that's education too. It's not just about giving, it is about learning and feeding yourself and being open to change. And I think that that's, again, circling back to jazz and what we do.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
look back at like what you're doing now and your dad's influences and who created Gus and who influenced and inspired him and his technique into Gus, passing the torch to you, and now it's going you know and I think that that is, I read about this. I read about this certification program. I see photos of, I mean, thousands of dancers taking this opportunity to really just learn another voice, and then respect that, and then move forward with it and
yeah.
embrace it and dig deeper. That's what I like, is that it's not just a one-off. It's
Right.
like a master class, and here, and take this and run away, but you're digging into a technique. And I just think it's something very, very special, and it'll be interesting even 20 years from now, like you're saying, that's what's next. All these other voices, 20 years from now, what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. Because I think it's so crucial to expose our youth to the foundational, strong voices of all the disciplines
Hmm.
in dance. I mean, this can be in any sector, but we're talking about dance. They need to know. They need to know. It's not just about the fads of today. You have to give the full picture of it.
That's right.
And there was one other thing that I love about uh, one of my favorite things about the company is when we're in rehearsal and we rehearse in a small space, unlike the gorgeous, absolutely exquisite spaces at Point Park, um,
They are
we
perfect.
rehearse in a private studio. It's very small, but it doesn't matter. My dad taught me no matter what you go into, you make that space great from the best to the worst. But there will be times in this small space, we'll have 15 dancers, all doing different things, all kind of on top of each other, no one bothering anyone else, and it's like this buzz in the room.
Hmm.
This buzz of energy and focus and concentration and teamwork. Oh, I just sit back and if I'm next to Caesar Salinas, I have to mention Caesar and Joshua Blake Carter on our team as well as Michael. It's the four of us right now. I'll look over to Caesar and I'll say, "Are you seeing this? Is
Hmm.
this not the most beautiful thing?" And it's teamwork, and so that's just a memory, a vision that I just love. And you sit back and you watch it, and you're a part of it, but you're not because they're just going, and they'll do it with me or without me, and I love that. It's yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I think that's why the arts are so special. I think that, during this time, a lot of us have taken a moment to reflect and just be really grateful for these opportunities that we have, spaces, like you're saying, things that you might be tired of showing up for rehearsal that day, but now you're missing that buzz. I love that word. That buzz that we're talking about is like creative energy, passion, right? Relentless need and desire to make something better. That's when magic happens. We miss that.
Yes, we do miss that. But as much as I can, um, I'm I'm finding magic through the
Mhm.
platform that we've been given.
That's
Do I
exciting.
like it? No. Has it brought beautiful things? Yes.
The one thing that I'm hearing recurring theme with you is being present in the moment and invested in that particular time. So, whatever you're doing, you are invested and fully committed to that. And as much as there might be some noise over here, of course, you are present in
Yes.
that moment, which allows for, I think, more fulfillment and happiness. And, they talk about success, but I think it fills you up with joy. It's happiness.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
what's the point? Isn't that what life is? And
Right.
if our world doesn't learn anything from this, it better be that, you know,
Yeah,
embrace
exactly.
this moment. Many times I would say to the dancers, we have a magical secret. I wish everyone could experience it, coming into the room. And it's true.
Hmm.
So yeah, take this moment. I wake up with a smile on my face, ready to go. I really do. I don't. I gotta live the way that I am preaching. What's the point if you don't?
Yeah, it would
And
be
that
just a
keeps me young,
contradiction.
Kiesha. And
Mm.
the more seasoned I become, I had better keep my outlook because people don't believe I'm the age I am because I have so much energy
That positivity
and
is
the
just,
positivity.
it's kind of shining through, right? I love that I keep hitting this microphone, but it shines through, and it does. It kind of emulates and brings that energy, light, aura, essence, everything. And people read that, they can feel that across the room. But you've always been like that. I love that about you.
Well, thanks. Thank
It's
you.
true.
I've learned to own it and just 1000%.
Yeah, that's
Because that's a gift
fantastic.
I have. I may not have the choreography gift, but I have a gift of, doing that. So
Hmm.
focus on your gifts and work on your weaknesses, as I said earlier.
Yep. And looking ahead, we're talking a lot about reflection and different projects and change and moving forward. What's next for you professionally and personally? Like what's next for Nan?
Well, this big project that we're doing with the company that is way too in the birthing stages to speak about.
I'm trying to get it
Uh,
out of you.
I know you're trying to pull it out of me, but I can't at this moment in time. It will be sooner than later. We actually this week just brought it to our executive committee and our finance. We have weekly standing meetings, and they're extremely excited about it. We'll bring it to the board. I've spoken to our captains, my beautiful dance captains, rehearsal captains, Katie Rafferty and Zach Heller, about it. And the dancers will come into the fold. So that's one really motivating thing for me, because I don't want to come back the same. We've done that for 58 years, so it's time for something new. And also just my teaching. I've been engaged with. Usually it's you go out, you teach, you come back. With my company schedule, I didn't have a lot of time to do it. I would do it very little. So I love to teach, Kiesha. I love to teach. And so my teaching, and still right now, while the company is not on, I have found a way to teach. I've done university experiences through the Zoom platform, and my other Illuminate and that. So my teaching is going to stay in my fold, and I love to travel. That's one thing I greatly miss. Like everyone,
Mhm.
I love to see the world. My father was a traveler. My mom did not like to travel. She never wanted to leave, her home unit, not the house, but just
Mhm.
her. She was not a world traveler, and I think I got that from my dad. So I'd like to continue to. I'd love to be able to do some traveling. Uh, dance has brought me to see the world. The company's been to 28 countries, so dance has literally been a golden key for me to be able to see other cultures and experience. And I want that to continue for sure. So
So
those are
exciting.
my things. And my son is my everything. My
I
son
know.
is what makes
He's
my world tick. So Keenan Giordano is his middle name, Casey. I'm very proud of my son, and this time of pause has given me just amazing, simple time with my son, and that makes me more happy than anything. So that's, yeah, I want more of that too. Because his world, business wise, he's working a lot, but not having to go in the office and not doing that. He's working from home or from here.
Mhm.
So it's been great.
Well, and it's a quality of life. It's a little different than running and working 18-hour days from the studio to this, to that, but having those, like you're saying, those little moments, those more intimate moments with your son just make it so special.
Yeah.
So
And my
special.
dear friends,
Yes.
quality time.
Quality time.
And
Mhm.
my brother, quality time. And
Mhm.
yeah, so it's just making the simple things um, are just radiant. I had a small example. I had a birthday in December, and we had my son, his girlfriend, Keenan and Sophie, and Josh Caesar, and my good friend in the building, Beth. We've all been, together this whole time, so
Mhm.
it wasn't about quarantining. We had the most beautiful, amazing. It was kind of a last minute thing. It was like the best birthday ever. I didn't need anything. It was out. It was like perfection. Just small, intimate, and just laughing fun. Yeah, usually it's, oh, we got to go out, we got to do this, do that. I preferred being in my home with close.
Simple, simple. It's so simple
Simple,
sometimes.
simple.
It's
Let's
so
say
simple.
simple.
Yeah, I understand. And so, I look at your career and how long you've been doing this and how much you love it and how much it's changed. I mean, in my mind, I have this vision and descriptors of you. I think you're brilliant. I think you're fantastic. I think you're caring. I think you're loving. I think that you generate another layer of dancer that wants to do this. You provide a pathway for all of these future artists to continue to move forward. What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
Energy,
Oh, I love that.
positivity, and seizing the moment. That's it. I don't need any grandness whatsoever. That's what I want my legacy to be. I was full of energy, embracing life, and a positive force. That's it.
See, now I'm crying. I just see that.
That's it. And Kiesha, I will tell you that I really, it's going to sound a little morbid, but my father for years told me what he wanted for his funeral. And for 10 years. And I'm like, Dad, we used to like almost argue about it. Dad, I know. I don't want to hear about it. I really don't want to hear about it. And I'm doing the same thing with certain people that are close to me, telling them how I want my celebration to be. No tears, no this, from silks hanging, Kiesha, to music to this. I want it to be a celebration of life. And it's just so funny to me that there are so many things that I do that really bothered me like that about my dad. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing the same exact thing.
That would be that DNA connection again.
Oh my God. But you know what? I just want to be remembered for my life, for
Mhm.
the energy that I brought into the world. That's it. That's enough. That's it. That's enough for me.
Well, and it's a lot from our end. It's you've given so much to so many. So thank you for that. In closing, do you have any advice for any young artists that are out there, or anyone that's kind of struggling right now, or maybe someone thinking about going through a transition? I know you talked a little bit about some of the mottos in your life, but is there like one piece of advice you can offer our listeners just from you, from your heart?
From my heart, it is a difficult time I can't imagine for the younger generation. But what I say, this is it. Don't focus on what you don't have. Focus on what you have and strengthen that. And it's a very simple way of thinking. But we all know what we don't have. There's a lot, but there's so much more that we do have. And Focus on that, and there's so much you can do if you allow yourself to focus on what you can do. Absolutely. To all you young aspiring artists of different sorts, is focus on what you can be and you can do, and you can do it for sure.
Amazing. That is the greatest way to end this show. I cannot thank you enough. I wish you all the best with all of your new projects and endeavors. Certainly with the dance company, I'm sending everyone my love. And thank you for all that you do to continue celebrating, the past, the present, and the future of dance and art and just the human connection. And your spirit, your energy is definitely everything that we celebrate about you. So thank you, Nan.